All right, magic makers. I have to tell you that, I'm always fascinated by people that I meet online. And I've met the current guest online, and she was really talking about a subject that I think many of us as well, I'm not a mom, but for those of you who are mamas, things that we struggle with having conversations with mainly our daughters, but probably our sons as well, because we grew up in diet culture and we knew what it was like for our parents, family members, someone else to make a comment about our body. And some of us are still unpacking that shit. And we really need to understand, and we know how hard that was. We know how sucky that felt. And so I found Dr. Noha Polak, and this is her jam. This is what she talks about. This is what she addresses. And I can't wait to hear what she shares with us this morning. So welcome to the show, Dr. Polak.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you for the nice intro. I am Noha Polak. I'm a pediatrician. I've been practicing pediatrics in New Jersey since 1996. So I've had lots of practice and I've made lots of mistakes, both as a physician and as a parent. And I'm here to share all of my knowledge with you guys.
Yeah. And so, as a pediatrician, you get kids dragged in there for all sorts of things. And, I'm sure what made you start this work is that you saw parents drag in little Jimmy or Johnny and saying, we need to put them on a diet.
Exactly. I'd like to address the issue, first of all, with people's permission. So if the parent brings the child in for that reason, then I do address it. However, oftentimes I will see a child in for a well visit, and I will notice that their BMI went up really fast, or that they're really on a trajectory that's going to lead to prediabetes, hypertension, and other issues. And that's when it gets tricky, because you should ask permission as a clinician,
right,
both from the teenager and from the parent, to discuss this really sensitive issue.
Yeah.
I will often walk into the room and you can feel the tension. The parents are tense because they know what the weight is, and the child is crying. Oftentimes, boys and girls cry right in front of me about their weight. So it's a super sensitive topic, and we've got to ask permission. So my first point to make to your audience, whether they're clinicians or parents, is, ask them if they want to talk about it.
Yeah. And so and I see that, because I'm sure that, you look around. Well, let me back up right now. I got two tracks. I'm going to go. First track is that, when you and I grew up, there were not a lot of heavy people in our classes. There was, they were the outliers, like just where they were the really skinny kids, and they were the heavy kids. And now, and when you were the heavy kid, you felt it more than you probably feel it now. And so when that person comes to you and they're just like, I'm just feeling fat, I'm overweight, I don't know what to do, what are some of the conversations that you have around that, where they're just like, I'm just, lost?
Well, I like to talk about a health journey instead of a weight loss journey with them. So I think about it as a health journey because when you're on a journey, you expect ups and downs. There's no straight line between point A and point B in a health journey. So I start by saying, well, do you want to go on a health journey with me? And hopefully parents can use that term also. Do you want to go on a health journey with me? And explain to them that there will be really good times and really bad times, and expect both and deal with both equally. So that's number one that I like to talk about, because that sets the expectations that they're going to sometimes do great and sometimes not so great, and that I'm still there for them, and the parent is still there for them, whether they're doing well or not. All our kids just want to be loved and accepted by us.
Absolutely.
And if we say to them, this is a journey, I will go on the journey with you if you want to go on a journey. But if you're not ready now, then you let me know when you're ready. Because a lot of our kids are just not emotionally ready to go on a health journey. So that's how I start addressing the issue. But I often talk to the parents directly about their role in helping their children stay safe and healthy. So their role is not really to be the food police.
Yeah.
Right. And their role is definitely not to say, hey, you're gaining weight, stop eating.
Yes.
But their role is to bring the right things into the house and keep the wrong things out of the house for the most part.
Right.
Right. So we all love food. And that's what I say to them. Whatever's there, we're going to eat it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And you said something that I think that's really interesting. So, if I'm the kid and I'm understanding that, you know what, I'm, not feeling comfortable in my body, but what about that parent who's like, you see your child not making the healthiest choices and you are trying to navigate that, like that very tightrope, that very narrow tightrope of knowing that, they're reaching for the chips and the cookies regularly. And you're like, I'd love to have you reach more for the apples and the carrots. How do, as a parent, how do you start introducing more of that healthiness to your child without it feeling like, you're being, punished or being the food police?
So 3 things. Number 1, role model, right?
Yeah.
So if you're eating junk, they're going to eat junk too. Number 2, availability. If you've got chips in the house, then they're going to eat it. True. So if all you have in the house are fruits and vegetables, but the chips can be for when you go out once a week or every other week, then you're not the food police. You're going to let them eat their chips and enjoy their chips once in a while, but not every day in the house.
Right.
Number 3, if you see that, ask them how they feel about themselves, about their body. Look at their body language when they're trying on clothes. Look at their body language when they come home from school. Are they happy? Right. Or are they stressed? So I like to ask my patients, and I used to ask my kids when they were little, how did it go at school? And if I see that they're sad or upset, I ask specifically, is someone bothering you? Did someone say anything hurtful to you today? Right. And if someone is bullying them or saying mean things about their body, that's where I start the conversation.
Right. Right. So, so it's more about asking about the whole, the whole person, if you will, right? What's truly happening with them, and being able to have those kind of frank conversations with your child about pretty much anything, because I'm the big believer. It's like you ask one question and it just kind of becomes this like snowball of questions that you finally get to the root of why they may or may not be upset.
Exactly. And I can hear parents in the background thinking, my kids roll their eyes at me every time I ask them these questions. And that's fair. You know what they do? My kids used to roll their eyes 20 times and once they will actually answer my question.
Right.
So I kept asking.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like as much as you try to distance yourself from your like childhood person, you too did the same thing. Like your mom's like, how was school? Fine. Like, just like, just shut up. Like it just gave them enough so that you could like go to your room or wherever you wanted to go without listening. But, eventually if you keep asking it at a different angle, eventually you're going to get something more than a grunt out of your kid.
Absolutely. Kim, there's a point that I think I would really like to amplify in the world of parenting, is that scales do not measure willpower. Okay. Scales just are numbers.
Yes.
So if the numbers on your scale or on your child's scale are going up, that doesn't mean they don't have willpower. And being overweight is not a personality flaw nor a weakness. It's simply a condition, an issue that should be dealt with. So as a parent, when you're talking to your child, please help them understand it is not a weakness. It is not a personality flaw. Help them to understand that the scale does not mean they don't have self-control. It's just a number. And the more times you say that, the more they will believe it. Now, imagine you and I grew up in that. imagine our parents had said that.
God. I mean,
awesome.
This, it's as you're saying this, I was like, as a parent, I have to be at that evolved state because, I deal with women over 40, and many of the, one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because I know that those parents are still dealing with the trauma of the bullying, because they were the kid who was on the heavy side of the spectrum. They were the kid who parents may or not made them weigh in or sent them to fat camp. I think about Weight Watchers. The thought of it is a very, empowering thought, like bring people together and make it more of a community, we work together. But the first damn thing you do is step on a scale. Like, who's excited to do that? Like, I'm going to Weight Watchers today, I'm going to step on a scale. Like, no one is excited. So I agree with you. Like, that scale is literally just your relationship with gravity. And it has no relation with anything. Like, I might be a smaller, compact person and really heavy on that scale. And I might have lost 5 inches. And because the scale didn't budge a pound, I'm defeated.
Exactly my point. So I'm hoping to change the narrative by speaking out as much as possible about the fact that just because you're struggling with your weight or with your health, it doesn't make you weak. I like to use examples with kids, and I'm hoping parents can use examples too. I like to use examples like Lizzo. Do you think that Lizzo is a successful person? Yes. So if Lizzo is a successful person and she's struggling with her weight, what does that mean? It means that everyone can struggle with their weight. It does not mean you're not intelligent. It does not mean you're not strong. Right. You can be strong and intelligent and everything and still struggle with your weight. And that's okay. That's just fine.
It's so funny because I think about, like, now kids can relate because they know who Lizzo is. And I think about when I first started, coaching and training, I always refer to Oprah. Oprah Winfrey is, in the top 10 richest women on the planet. She has struggled with her weight. And I love the fact that she's very open. She's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, and she admits it. She's like, I'm great for a while and then I'm not. And it's great when you have these famous people who you can look to and be like, okay, they have everything that you would aspire to have, yet they have the same struggle that you do.
Exactly. So imagine you as a parent having a conversation with your child and helping them love their body the way it is right now.
Right.
And helping them understand that they're not weak, that they are still strong, that they're capable, and that when someone says something mean to them at school, it's just an opinion, not a fact.
Oh,
help your kid differentiate. This kid says the sky is green, but is the sky green? Really? It's just their opinion. Who cares?
And I'm like, as you say this, I used to work at once a year, I used to do this big fitness camp for women. And we had a whole big hour-long thing about unpacking just like the bullshit stories that people put on you, not the stories that you made up yourself, but just the things. And this one woman, I think she was like in her 50s, and she remembered this guy's first and last name, and he was the first person ever called her fat. Over 50 years ago, he called her fat on the playground, and that seed just took root in her brain and just changed the trajectory of her life. And so I love that you're saying this. It's opinion, not a fact. And as a parent, if we can start like, empowering our children to be like, you know what? Do you really give a shit about that little kid on the playground? And in 20 years, you might remember that person's first and last name, but are they going to have any part of your life?
None.
Except for the space you give them up here. And I bet you that person doesn't even remember they said that to you.
I guarantee they don't. As a matter of fact, kids can be so mean and they can blurt out the meanest things, but it's still our job as parents to help our kids kind of filter the junk that comes into their lives. So we can, if your child is called that, you can say to them, opinions are not facts.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because it's like, if you think about, we all, like, you could be like, I could think this is the best sweatshirt on the planet, and then you're like, not my taste. And for me, I'm like, I like the sweatshirt, so I'm still gonna wear it. And it's like, I think as an adult we kind of grow into that, but as a child, especially those like awkward years,
the preteens, yes,
they're like 8 to like 15, where you're just trying to like navigate who the hell you are, and like all the various cliques within your school or your social group, and you're just trying to like maybe maybe on Wednesday we do wear pink, right? You're just trying to figure out like what it is who you're supposed to be. And I'm sure trying to navigate weight loss during that period of time, like, good Lord, I don't want to go back to that period of my life.
Me neither. I mean, I feel like as parents, I still have my parents' voice in my head.
You do.
So if we as parents now say the right things over and over again, that voice will continue to reverberate in their children's brains when they're in their 50s and 60s. So just keep saying opinions are not facts. The scale does not measure your willpower.
Yeah.
And it does not mean you're weak if you're struggling with weight. Period. That's it. That's the message you give your children, to help them feel good, not only inside, but outside. Now, should you really just let your child be out of control with eating? Well, not really, right? You should guide them gently. Don't make them do things they hate doing. If they hate exercise, well, you can't make them do it, because they're continue to do it. If they hate vegetables, you can't make them eat it. But you can kind of coax them into things. And as parents, we know how to do that. And to be fair to parents, they're kind of trying to guide their children through a huge minefield of issues, especially with the pandemic and with social media and with all the stuff we have to deal with now. So parents, here's my message to you. If you don't know what to say, go to someone to help you learn what to say. Your pediatrician should be a resource, a huge resource. That's number one. Number two, your other resource are, trusted online sites such as healthychildren.org. I don't Google everything, because Google can take you down a rabbit hole.
Oh God, yes.
So I also know the struggle of moms and dads out there that are, okay, what do I talk to my kid about today? Is it the bad news, or is it the pandemic, or is it politics, or is it their health?
Or do you like Pollyanna everything? And, and it's like, you kind of gloss it over, like, it's okay, it's fine. And you're like, it's hard. I mean, there's so many, I think now there's so many landmines that as a parent we can walk into, and just also think about like what other kids are bringing into school about their thoughts and opinions on all the various world topics these days.
Absolutely. So we do our best. I'm hoping to amplify that message and to help kids feel good about themselves and their bodies, and to help guide parents into that conversation, into that health journey conversation.
Well, I want to circle back on a couple of things you said when we were talking about how, parents shouldn't be the food police. And, moving forward, no one should ever be the food police. And so there were two things that kind of popped into my brain that I still see now, right? I think about, women my age, we were I'd say the like first generation of diet culture, like before, I'd say before the 80s, the only thing you really ever heard of was like Weight Watchers and like a few of these kind of like diets that no one even heard of. But I feel like at the 80s and 90s, like, diets just like mushroom cloud. And so one of the big things I always see, talk about food pushers, right? It's you can't leave until your plate's empty, or when you go to a particular relative's house or a friend's house, there's the make sure you eat this or try this, or, you know, whatever their specialty dish is. And so I see a lot of people who, I mean, you know, a lot of my clients, they tell me that, you know, they feel like they can't say no to the food pushers in their life.
So absolutely, that's one of the biggest things, one of the biggest mistakes that I'd like to talk to parents about at times is that, are you giving mixed messages, right? Are you telling your child to finish everything on their plate, and then you turn around and say, oh, you're overweight, or you're this or that. So stop with the mixed messages as a parent, right? So absolutely, if your child does not finish the food on their plate, the hungry people in Africa will not be fed. Has no relationship to it whatsoever. But so if your child is full, their child is full. Let them stop eating. But if they're full now and in a half hour they're asking for a snack, that's not okay.
Right. And then that's when you have the conversation. Like, what was wrong with dinner?
Or you simply say, I'm sorry, there's no food until the next meal.
Right.
Period. Right. So you as a parent get to set limits. Absolutely. You have the right to set limits, but you should not force your child to eat if they're not hungry or if they actually hate the food. Now, we do want our kids to eat healthy. So we do want to encourage as much as possible that they have to eat their vegetables and fruits. And there's a whole way of doing that. Now, so if you're a parent at home, please don't try to be pushy. But if your kid is out at a party, right, and everybody's eating pizza, then let them eat pizza, right? They're going to eat everything that they're having. But you're right about pushy eating. I mean, I don't know how to handle that. And I know that as a child, it's super hard to say no to an adult.
Oh yeah. Well, because especially
you to do something,
especially if it's a relative, you know, it's like you're at your grandmother's house or your aunt's house, and you know, the food is just like coming at you. And it's as a kid, you know, it's really helping them navigate that, like, especially if you said the mixed message, if you just say, you know what, I'm full, and that person being respectful, like, you know what, I'm full, thank you, and teaching them that it's okay to be respectful and just say you're full.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, that's the perfect message. Thank you.
Well, because I know for me, like, you know, a lot of my clients, they have food pushers, and they will say, they'll come, you know, like when I go to so-and-so's house, like they're just always throwing food at me. And I'm like, just, you know, have a couple bites just to make them feel happy, but don't feel like you have to like eat until like they will you out of the room.
That's right. You're absolutely right. Mixed messages can be rough. And they're probably the same relatives that will say to you, oh, that pant looks a little tight on you today.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, yeah, because you fed me all the starving people in Africa were full.
Exactly.
The other thing that I also think about is good food, bad food. You know, that you know, and it's okay. Like I get it. Like if your kid's filling up on junk, like, hey, stop filling up on junk. Where you're like, it's more about you want to make sure they're eating for dinner or whatever the next meal might be. So you're like, don't fill up on junk. That's a very different, broad category. But just like, oh, those chips are bad, or pizza's bad, or, you know, whatever is bad, but this is good.
So you're right. I hate labeling food as well as good or bad. There's no such thing, in my opinion. It's all nutritious, at least a little bit. The key here for me is have your child have a good relationship with food. If all they have available to them all the time is good food, and once in a while, I'm sorry, to not to label it, but healthy food. Yeah. And once in a while there's a less healthy food available, then they're going to eat it. But if your house is full of less healthy food, that's all they're going to eat. Again, it's all about availability when it comes to children. It's really different from adults, because we can go out and get in a car and go buy whatever we want. Right. But our 12-year-old is not doing that. They're eating whatever we bring into the house. So the conversation to the parent and to the child is different than if you were to be talking to an adult who's trying to control their eating habits. So with parents, I always say, you're only in control of availability.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's only one small bag of chips in the house, they're only going to have that one. If you have 10, then they're going to fill up on 10.
Right. You know, and I like the, you're in control of the availability, but if some parents like swing to the far other side where, it's gluten-free, soy-free, all the fun food is like forbidden, that the thought of any processed food coming into the house is just like, you might as well bring in a nuclear warhead.
So food restriction is a really touchy topic in pediatrics, and we approach it carefully. I absolutely think our children should be eating everything that they're not allergic to.
Yes.
Okay, everything that they're not allergic to. And we can't assume they're allergic to something
until they eat
without truly getting a testing or, a professional opinion about that.
Right.
Okay. So never having bread in the house is so unrealistic because your kid's going to eat bread somewhere.
Right. Someone's going to be like, here's a sandwich, because that is in our vernacular, sandwiches.
I think we should have a good relationship with food and with a variety of food. And there's no good food or bad food. There's, to some point, moderation is a great idea. And some of us are capable of it and others are less capable of it. So those of us who have a hard time with moderation with certain things, like with me, for example, it's bread.
Right.
I bring a small amount of bread into my house. I don't buy huge amounts.
Right.
So again, I do that, but I do think that food restriction can really be harmful to children.
Mm-hmm.
Both emotionally and physically, to be honest.
Yeah. And on both, food restrictions on both sides, be it, never have fun foods or, forcing the eating of a specific nutritional profile.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And then it makes them kind of swing the other way when you're not around.
Yeah. It's, I think about like, I don't have children, but my friends who have kids, and the kids who come with like a list.
Yes.
And I was like, if I was a parent, I'd be like, that's a kid we're not going to play with anymore. Because I'm like, I can't keep up. Like,
it's hard. It's hard to follow the restrictions.
Yeah. Like,
but there's true food allergies out there.
Right. Let me know what's going to kill your kid. Other than that, it's an open book. If you're especially going to let your kid out of the house.
Absolutely. Our kid, we don't own our kids. At some point they go, and we're not going to be in control at all. So it's much better for us to enable our children to make good decisions than to make the decisions for them.
Yeah. And I like where this is going, because I feel like this, as you said earlier, like the things that our parents say to us, even if they say it over and over and over again, and we pretend to tune them out, as they say, repetition is learning. That's how we learn things. And so at some point, even if you can't believe it's coming out of your mouth, you are going to say something your parent had said to you, or some other, person in authority had said to you earlier, and you're just gonna be like, oh, I can't believe I just said that. And even if it probably annoyed the crap out of you at the time, can't believe you said that. But if us showing our kids that it's okay to be comfortable around food, that it's okay that I have this, there's times I have fun foods, there's times I have healthy foods, and I'm not taking to my bed because I overindulged in whatever it is I may have overindulged in, so that kids can, like you said, parrot back like what they've learned from their parents.
Absolutely. I mean, again, our job as parents is to make them not need us to make good decisions, right? Yeah. That's our job, to kind of, work ourselves out of a job so that they can be good, comfortable, happy adults. And if that's our goal, then we're not going to try to control them, but help them make good choices.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love this. And, one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is that you you talked about it's one step at a time, right? It's not, as we started the show, you said, I like to just sit down and be like, are we open to going on the journey? That's just fabulous. And so for you, is the journey like, here's the roadmap, but we're only going to get to mile 1 today?
So I think kids and many parents will become overwhelmed if we go to the end first.
Right.
We just start with one habit at a time. Yep. I ask them, do you want to talk about changing one habit or 2? And if they say 2, then I have them enumerate habits that they're willing to change, not that I'm going to pick for them. It's often things like, soda. And, I'd like to have, 3 sodas a day. So we just knock it down to 2 a day.
Right.
Right. I don't take away anything that they love.
Right. Yeah.
That's not going to last. It's not doable.
No.
Yeah. So there's no way that I can tell you that every patient is the same or every kid is the same. Everybody has to be treated as an individual.
Yes.
Right. This is personalized, totally personalized care. So you have to sit down and have an in-depth conversation. What do you love?
Yeah.
What are you willing to decrease and what can you do a little bit better? But our goal is never a weight. And they always ask me that. What's my goal weight? What are you going to help me get to? And I never answer it. I'm going to get you to healthy lifestyle. I'm not going to get you to a certain weight.
And it's so funny. So you're a doctor. And the one thing I know, because I do this work, is that within 15 minutes of my physical, I'm stepping on a scale. And it always makes me crazy because I know that the scale is more, for you, it's more of an indication of like, is there something going on? But culture makes us have it, the meaning is way more. Because it's like, you look at it, if I have put on, say, 30 pounds and since the last year that you saw me, you're going to be like, is there something physiologically going on with you?
Exactly.
Where for me, if I put on 30 pounds in a year, there clearly must be something wrong with me. Like what's wrong with me is like, I have no willpower.
And that's why we need to change that conversation. So we do have to wait, especially kids, right? Because especially during the pubertal time, it's really critical how they're growing, right? And where the numbers are, both
where they are in their benchmarks,
blood pressure. Right. So I try to tell them this, look, I'm also measuring your blood pressure. Am I going to blame you if you have high blood pressure? Absolutely not. Am I going to blame you if your weight went up? Absolutely not. There's no blame. Blame game is not necessary. All we need to understand is that these are numbers. What do the numbers indicate? And how can we help you get to a healthier place? Right. But you're right about that. The goal should not be a weight, but we do have to know what the weight is so that we understand, are you gaining water weight? Is your kidney working okay? Is your liver cleaning things up properly?
Right.
Are your hormones okay? Do you have any thyroid issues? We've got to figure that out. So we can't avoid the scale in a medical setting, but we don't have to obsess about it.
Yeah. And I think, for me, because I get underneath the hood, and I think for other people, that those conversations should be like, this is why we take your weight. Like, so that like we aren't feeling embarrassed. Especially I know a lot of my clients have put on weight because of the pandemic. You're like, there's a lot of uncertainty, 2 years ago, like, was this like the Walking Dead scenario or were we going to come out of it?
Absolutely. You're right. I think clinicians should be a little bit more transparent about why certain things are happening on a regular basis. Really good point, Kim.
Yeah. Because it's like, it literally in the first, 15 minutes, you pee in a cup, you get a cuff on you and you step on the scale. And maybe take some blood. And so like for blood, you're like, yeah, you need to know what's going on inside of me. So like, that's pretty self-explanatory. Blood pressure is pretty self-explanatory. But for most people, you're like, you're judging me when you step on the scale.
So that's a good point, and I'm going to take that home.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, I think everything you've given here that's what I loved about when I was, creeping on you before we got on the call, is that you're practical, right? I know a lot of, and it's happened to me that, you know, you go to a doctor and you literally are giving like forms. And this is, you know, you're like, oh, I've put on a little weight and blah, blah, blah. And you're giving these forms and you're like, okay, that's a lot. And you're like, am I going to read these forms? Probably not. But your approach was like, okay, here, you know, where do you feel comfortable starting?
If you're even comfortable starting yet.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like you're putting them in the driver's seat where you're just like, okay, I'm sitting here in the passenger seat. I'm gonna be the navigator, but you're gonna be the driver. And I think that makes, as you talked about in your bio, like that makes me more empowered, because I feel like, you know, a lot of clients will come to me, and I'm sure your patients come to you and they're like, well, just give me a goal. And I was like, I can't just give you a goal, because if you're not connected, at some point when it get hard, you're going to tap out.
Absolutely. It's going to tap out. You know, I love treating kids, but now I can see the pain that this whole pandemic and weight gain has caused. And I think our voice needs to be amplified much more, Kim. You know what? Because we need to speak out. Yeah. We need to tell parents about how to talk to their kids about this, because the other huge crisis that's happening now is a teenage mental health crisis.
Oh God, yeah.
And a lot of it is really related to their body image, and they can't separate that. So as parents, I don't know how to stress to parents anymore how important it is how they talk to their kids, how they empower their kids, how mindset is super important. If you enable your child to differentiate an opinion from a fact,
yes,
to differentiate the scale from their willpower, then you've already set them up for success. You've kind of made them resilient, right? So as professionals, people like you and me need to speak out about that. And I just want to put myself out there and say, if you need a speaker to amplify that message, I'm your person.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it loudly. I want to have conversations about it. And I want to even take on the haters. I've already taken on enough haters. I can do that. Bring it on.
No, and I love that, because like your mental health is the linchpin, especially in these troubling, like, one, we're in troubling times, but also if I'm just already feeling weird about my body in general, because that's what you do when you're in the preteen, teenage years, like hormones are just going wild, and you are just trying to just figure out who you are, and your body is like on its own trajectory.
Exactly.
And it can be very hard. You're just trying to just fit in to just life, and it can be hard. And, you know, body image is everything. Is, you know, social media I'm grateful that I didn't grow up with social media, because it was hard enough just seeing certain people at school. I can't imagine seeing people who I'm never going to meet in life, how they approach life. And I think that's how I should be approaching life too.
Repeatedly. It's not like we used to look at magazines and then put the magazine down, but this is in your face on social media
for hours,
over and over.
I'm doing this.
The repetition is killing these kids. That's what we need to keep repeating, the right message.
Right.
To try our best to negate those messages.
Yeah. And I love that, because it's like, and especially as a parent, I also have to work on my body image issues, because, you know, like you said, even though I wasn't seeing it on social media, the Keeping Up with the Joneses started because there was a new magazine article out with the new diet and how this actress lost 400 pounds in 4 minutes just by, you know, eating ice chips. And we bought it hook, line, and sinker.
We did, myself included. Again, you know, one thing about being in your midlife or later, like myself, is to say that, you know what, I've learned from all of these things.
Right.
And to tell your kids, you know what, I'm not sharing this information with you to tell you what to do. I just want you to understand that I was where you were. I've done it. I've made all these mistakes already. Here are my mistakes. You can choose to make all the same mistakes if that's what you want, but just know what mine were.
Yeah. And I know for me as a coach, I'm always like, hey, you're going to head for that brick wall. Some of you need to hit the brick wall and then fall down, and then you're ready for me to pick you up. Others like it that I've got my arms out trying to protect you from the brick wall. So, you know, as a parent, you can say the same thing. You're like, you can hit the brick wall. I'll be here to pick you up. Or yes, we can stop right here and we can move forward. And I think it's having those frank conversations that will really go a long way. Excellent. So this has just been, thank you. I want to thank you so much for taking your time, Noah. And, you know, so one more question before what's the one thing that makes you feel magical?
The one thing that makes me feel magical is when I see in someone's eyes the recognition that, oh, wait, you mean I am not a bad person because I keep gaining weight? Yes. Or you mean I'm not weak? For me, that's like just watching that huge mindset shift in their eyes, like when their eyes are wide open, that makes me feel magical. And that's why I don't want to say it to one or two people. I want to say it to thousands of people.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that message is out there as loud as possible.
Yeah. So I know that you're very active on social media, which I love that, you know, you see a lot of these like faux people. So I love when they're people who are actually credentialed, preaching the gospel. Where can people find you on the social media?
So my website is progressivepediatrics.com. I have a wellness center. So if you go to the wellness section, also I'm on LinkedIn, Progressive Pediatrics. I'm also on Facebook at Healthy Kids Doc, on Instagram at Progressive Pediatrics. I try to do it all. So Progressive Pediatrics and Healthy Kids Doc are the two handles that I use. And again, if you would like to reach out to me right through my website, you can send me an email, and I'd love to speak with you more, either about helping your specific child or your family get to a healthier place, or to speak at an event or a podcast. That's my goal, amplify the message.
Yes. Awesome. And thank you so much. I've just, everything you've said, and I'm like, I love when you meet people that like your ideology and just like meshes so nicely. I mean, the one step at a time, it's just fabulous, because we all think we're supposed to climb a building in one single bound. And that's just, there's only a handful of people who can do that.
I don't know any.
Right. I mean, that's what they call them, superheroes. So,
oh, fair enough.
Yeah. I haven't met a superhero in real life. If you guys have, reach out. You know, I'm always into the phenomena of people who can do that. But thank you so much for taking your time and chatting with me this afternoon.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you so much for having me on.